Hi, welcome to the Indie Game Manual for the week of September 16th. I am not Rob Manuel. I'm Lisa Willems. I'm here with Rob Manuel.
Hello.
And today we're talking about IndieCade.
Well, yes, there's last week they released the nominees for IndieCade. So they said that these were the best games that we have, and that any one of these games could be a winner of like aesthetics, story, or even their bigger prize. So today we're actually looking at just the nominees today, and you actually picked out a couple of ones that you knew something about, like Gunpoint.
Yeah, Gunpoint looks incredible. The aesthetic-wise, it's brilliant. The music in the trailer is fantastic. Have you played it?
Yes.
Play any of it?
It's such like a great game that you can actually sort of like play around with, that you can actually go into any sort of situation and think to yourself, okay, if I do this, I rewire this so the door slams into his face, or if I can make it so he can turn on the light, but actually activate the elevator. Yeah, it's just this beautiful sort of like combination of like puzzle and playfulness that's both going into it.
And the objective is that you're trying to sneak around and
Right.
stealthily like rewire things, and
you're trying to like you're trying to break in, and you're trying to get like you're trying to get these computers. Basically, you're hacking into the computers, but by doing so you can like rewire things, or you can just hop on people and just beat them senseless, or like bash through windows. Like it's a beautiful game, and it's so much that you can go through. Some of the games that really sort of impressed me were the story-driven games. Like I've been saying, like this is such a strong story-driven selection, where you have Gone Home, where you have
That Dragon Cancer.
That Dragon Cancer that has been, that's been going around, that everyone loved. Kentucky Route Zero. Like,
Yeah.
How do you choose between those three games? Like, what's the stronger story? Like, do you choose the one that's based on like someone's real life, that you're actually sort of like stepping through it? Is it Gone Home with the great sort of aesthetics, the sort of experimental, like you're finding the story as you're picking up these strange objects? Or is it Kentucky Route Zero that's this just beautiful graphics, beautifully designed, sort of has this haunting flow to it that takes you from point to point to point, and you never quite are sure where you're going or how you're going to get there. And there's also some great ones as well, like the TWINE compilation.
Porpentine?
Yes.
Porpentine or Porpentine?
Yes. TWINE was one of these big interactive things. Anyone can actually make a TWINE game. You should probably start working on your own. But she happens to put together like all these games, and one of the big ones is Howling Dogs that I absolutely love. And it's funny because during the Indie Game Festival earlier this year, Gone Home, which took home pretty much everything, their booth was replaced with Howling Dogs, which is a part of this, and now they're meeting face to face in the competition.
Oh, nice. So what kind of game is Howling Dogs?
Howling Dogs is an interactive fiction game where you are a prisoner in this jail, and you're going through sort of the same steps over and over again, day in and day out. And it's one of these games where, as you get deeper and deeper into your wait through prison, your sanity starts to snap, and there's certain elements and keys within the game that change as you go through. One of the things is that you can throw away like objects, like you have to like eat and drink and stuff like that. So you get a bottle of water and you get some like wrappers, and after a while you stop throwing things away, and so like junk starts piling up in your cell. And it's just this sort of the way that not just you read it, not just the words, but the way that you look upon the words, the way that the words sort of like shift in and out, or sometimes will fade as you're reading them, sort of like adds to this insanity that you're experiencing in the middle of this imprisonment.
So super submersive.
Yes.
Sounds like.
Exactly.
Very cool.
Another thing that's really cool that IndieCade is always very well known for is the ability to sort of like break out of the virtual realm, or like taking games and bringing it to like a wider audience, or bringing them bring them, as it were, to like the real world, sort of like Space Team. Space Team is one of my favorite games. It's a free game you can download for iPhone like right now. No, do it right now.
I'm getting this tonight.
You have
and
to
then
get this
I just
tonight.
need to find 3 friends.
Yeah, well, you don't even need 3 friends. You can just, as long as you get one other person who gets this. What you basically are doing is you're trying to survive on the spaceship, and everyone has different controls, and on the top of the screen there are things that you need to be doing. So it's like crank this up to level 8, or turn on the windshield wipers, or like buckle your seatbelts.
But it's all like gibberish kind of commands,
It's sort of
right?
gibberish kind of commands, and the commands that you have are not necessarily for the controls that you have. And so it's one of those things that you're just reading off the top, and you're just yelling them out as quickly as possible in order to survive, in order to keep going, because if you slow down, your ship falls apart. And as you go through, your controls actually fall apart.
Oh yeah.
And so things will start to fizz out, and there's controls, like little speakers will start swinging back and forth, and it's beautiful. It's so well done and so much fun. It is. You have to.
So is it the kind of thing where there's no way your ship will always explode, but it's just the fun of getting there?
It's the fun of like every time you play it, you get a little bit further, but it gets a little bit crazier the further you get into it.
And it's an iOS game, right?
It's an iOS game, and it's absolutely great. Another game that sort of like breaks the mold is 99 Tiny Games, which is actually sort of a compilation of 99 tiny games that you can find throughout London in the different boroughs. So there's things that they're all sort of space specific. So there's this one game where you're overlooking a heavy traffic area, and the game's called Dum Dum. And so the object of the game is that one person sort of repeats the steps that they're watching one of the people in the crowd as they're stepping. He goes dum 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 for each step, and the other person has to guess who they're following, or in the crowd. And so it's like, oh, is it that police officer? Is it that person who's running? Is it the school kid over there? And you have to keep sort of like repeating like every time they take a step, dum. And it has this sort of musical quality to it. So it's like dum 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 as you're going through.
Super cool. I know Watch Dogs is, on everybody's hit list,
right.
Super hacking game, but Quadrilateral Cowboy is the cyberpunk hacking game that can you play it right now?
No, you can't play it right now, but it is just that you're a spy, and you're going in, you're trying to basically hack the world. And so you have to turn on cameras on and off, and you're actually learning code as you're doing it as well.
Oh, that's cool.
So they sort of like introduce code as this is how you set up a timer, this is how you set up like a true false, this is how you set up this is how you set up that. And by playing this game, you actually learn like very basic sort of code. Same thing with, a game called Code, where you actually play as like an @ symbol within the code itself. And so you're journeying around, and there's certain things that you have to do like within the code. And so by manipulating the code, that's how you move forward. Is that like as you're reading this, as you're seeing the code like on the page itself, you can manipulate it and be like, oh, this is how you take care of like a timing issue. This is how you take care of like a true false. This is how you take care of like an if-then or something like that to get through. And it's a really cool way to sort of like introduce people into this world. And I think it's one of those games that sort of like balances between having a whole lot of fun as well as actually learning something and taking something that you can use into the real world. Yeah,
these games are so creative, and like the mechanics are so original. But then like there are games like Super Time Force, which is sort of like your standard side scroller platformer, but not.
Right. I mean, Super Time Force
really.
is a beautiful sort of like idea where it's Contra, but it's such a smart, strategically based Contra. It's one of those games where as you're playing through and you die, you can actually rewind to any point previously, and you can start up again while your previous self sort of like plays alongside you. And there's other things like if you can kill the person, or if you can save your past self from dying, then they sort of join you as you're moving forward. And it's also really cool. It's a sort of one button shoot mechanic. So you can just hit the button real quick to just shoot, or if you hold it down, he does something really cool. Another sort of great game is Rogue Legacy.
You've been big on Rogue Legacy.
I absolutely love Rogue Legacy. It's one of those games that it's so smart and so well put together, but it has that you're never quite sure what's going to happen next, since every time you die, you have to start over with a new character. But that new character could be like a mage, or that new character could have like something really great about him, such as like he doesn't get knocked back as much, but he could also have something awful about him, like he's nearsighted, or maybe he forgets like where he's going, so you don't have a map to anything. I've had one where they remember everything and then also forget everything. And so the mini map tells you everything, but you can't say anything on a bigger map. It's super creative. Of course, Towerfall is another sort of like breakout hit that's come out, where you can have like a bunch of friends together, and it's everyone for themselves.
Tower defense, essentially.
I mean, it's sort of like you only have 3 shots. It's almost that, and it only takes 1 shot to kill anyone. So even though it takes a little bit of skill, anyone can get that killing shot. Anyone can, hit a button and do something that's amazing. Nidhogg is also another game that's on the list, where it's a one-on-one fencing game.
Yep.
But they've done so many like really great things with it, where you have this moment where you're trying to judge the other person. It's like, okay, what are they going to do? Are they going to aim high? Are they going to aim low? Or are they just going to throw their foil at me, where I have to you can duck it, or you can actually grab it, or you can slide into them. And there's so many great little things. And as soon as you die, it takes you maybe a second, 2 seconds to get back into the game, and all of a sudden there you are. IndieCade is absolutely one of my favorite places. It's one of my favorite events. It's like indie game Christmas. And it's so magical. And these games right here are just representative of the nominees.
The 36 main category nominees, right?
Main category nominees. This is not including the digital. This is not including the esports. This is not including the big games that you play outside. This is not including the night games. This is not including the Ouya Game Jam games that they're going to have there.
Oculus Rift.
Oculus Rift, sorry. This is not including the Oculus Rift games that they're going to have there. This is not including Sony usually brings out their games, since they're a big supporter of IndieCade as well. And it's just, you're just so startled, and you're just so sort of taken back by sort of the creativity, the ingenuity, sort of the look, even just sort of how did they even think about this? How did they even one day just say let's make a game where you tell strangers your darkest secrets. Let's make a game where you draw constellations in the sky and you make up stories about them. Let's make a game where you're playing pinball, but it has RPG elements to it, and you're telling a story that way. And it's just such a culmination of such amazing talent that's coming out. And so I think for the rest of this month, as well as going into IndieCade, which is October 3rd through the 6th, we're going to try to cover as much IndieCade as possible. We are going to get as many interviews to show off as many games, and to sort of let people know what are some of the amazing games, and some of the amazing games that you can play right now. Yeah,
and if you're in LA, Culver City, that's where IndieCade's happening. So maybe find a way to make it out there yourself and check things out.
It's a great spot. It's a beautiful place. It's fun for the family. It's fun for just about anyone who really loves games. And they have also some amazing game designers who do talks there as well. Mm-hmm. And I think if you get a chance, you have to go to the talks, because this is where people are talking about games that you will not see for 2 or 3 years, or even 5 years from now. But they are exchanging ideas that are going to be absolutely brilliant and absolutely wonderful. So I think that's going to be it for us today.
Yeah.
On the Indie Game Manual.
You can check out more IndieCade.com.
Yes, and
there.
as well follow me on Twitter, where I'll be announcing all of the new content that's coming out that's just IndieCade centric. And as always, thank you for watching the Indie Game Manual. And I'm actually
Double salute.
Salute.
Double salute.